Well, hello. I'm going to be demonstrating right now. We're going to do a little practice today first. We're going to be doing a 2-point perspective drawing for a final project. I'm going to be giving you directions on how to draw a gingerbread house in 2-point perspective, but you don't have to draw a gingerbread house if you don't want to. It could be just a normal house, it could be some type of a building, but you have to draw it accurately using the 2-point perspective kind of guidelines and rules. But we're going to practice first today. It's just drawing some boxes in 2-point perspective so you understand how to do that. So you're going to need a ruler, pencil or pen, marker to draw with. I'm going to draw with a marker so it shows up good. But you can draw with whatever you have. So I'm going to show you some boxes, and then I'm going to show you how to actually start the house. And then I will be giving you other directions, like paper directions on how to add details on your building and what else you're going to need in your picture. So first, with your ruler, somewhere in the middle of your paper here. If you don't have a ruler, you could use the edge of a book, or if you fold a paper in half, you could use the edge of the paper to make a straight line. But when we're talking with perspective, you always need to start with a horizon line. A horizon line is where the sky and the ground meet. And the horizon line is always drawn at your eye level. So if you're kind of just standing up normal, you're looking straight on, usually it's, if you're drawing a picture, it'd be more like this is, like the middle of the paper. But if you were like laying on the ground and you were looking up into the sky, or up higher, the horizon line would be maybe higher on your paper. If you were up on a hill and looking down, the horizon line would probably be lower on your paper. So it just depends what your eye level perspective is. But we're going to start right here in the middle. So draw a nice straight line there in the middle. But we're going to be drawing some boxes, and eventually a house that we're going to see both sides of. So if you kind of imagine that you're standing and looking at the corner of a building or a house, and you can see the right-hand side of the house and the left-hand side of the house. But we're going to start with boxes. And in order to do this, you can see what I just did. I put 2 dots on the horizon line. If you want to put X's, or dots, doesn't matter. However you want, just so that you can see these. Usually they're kind of dots to see the points on the horizon line that the sides have to angle to. Now, what's very, very important, we're going to draw 3 boxes, okay? Notice my ruler. I want to make it vertical, some vertical lines here. I don't want to have the lines on any angles. So I'm going to just make sure that my ruler is kind of even with the top edge of my paper here, like up here, straight. And that'll make sure that it's nice straight vertical line. I want you to put a line like in the sky up here, like one line in the top of your paper, one line that goes through the middle of the horizon line, and then another line down here at the bottom of your paper. So I'd like you to draw 3 lines like that. See how nice and straight they are? They're not kind of crooked on any angle. So really pay attention to that. Okay. We're going to start with the middle line. This will be the middle box. This is the box that, we're kind of looking straight on. We're just going to see the 2 sides of it. We're not going to be able to see the top or the bottom of it. So put your ruler at the bottom of that line, and then you got to angle the ruler to the right side vanishing point. And you are going to draw a line from the bottom of that line straight to the vanishing point. Now, when we do buildings or a house like this later, you're going to do this with a pencil, so that you can erase some of these lines, because these are just guidelines right now. My little pen is kind of wearing out, so I'm going to switch it. All right. And then you're going to take, let's do the bottom part of it. You're going to go to the bottom of that line. You're going to angle it to the left vanishing point. That's better. And draw your line. So these are going to be the bottom of the boxes. Okay. To draw the top angle correctly, you're going to go to the top of the line, make your ruler, go right to the vanishing point, kind of hold it still, and angle to that vanishing point, just like that. And we'll do the same on the left. Now I'm going to be demonstrating this live with you guys, but I'm going to be telling you that if I go too fast or something, you can always rewatch this video and to help you to redo it, maybe to practice some more. All right, so now I have the top and bottom of my box, but I have to decide how big of a box do I want to draw. You can decide how skinny it is, how wide it is. That just depends on where you're going to put the end or the side of the box. But once again, you can't draw lines now that are on any angle. They have to be straight vertical lines. So once again, I'm going to put my ruler, make sure it's straight right here along the edge of my top of my paper. And then I'm going to decide to draw I'm going to make my box kind of wide. So this is like the whole side. So I'm going to make my ruler nice and straight and vertical. And I'm going to make, so I have a big wide box here. So if I drew this with a pencil, I would have erased these lines in here. But, just to kind of see, this is this is one side of the box, and this is the other side of the box. Okay. Like I say, if I would have an eraser, I would have erased that horizon line so I don't see through. Okay. So let's do this bottom box. Now, because this is lower, we're going to draw the top of the box. And up here, because we're looking up at it, we're going to see the bottom of the box. So what we do is, same thing we did with this box. We're going to draw a line to the horizon line. To the vanishing point. On the right-hand side, we're going to draw a line to the vanishing point on the left-hand side. We're going to do that to the top of the line now too. And both sides. But like I said, because this is lower, we can now see the top of the box. We have to now decide how wide of a box we need, and we have to draw the sides of it. I'm going to make this one a little bit skinnier. I'm going to make my line nice and straight. It's going to be parallel with this line. I don't want it to be at an angle. That's not correct. So I'm going to make a nice straight vertical line here. I'm going to make this one thinner than the other box. I'm going to make a nice straight vertical line there. Okay. Now once you have those lines, you can now make the top of the box. So from the right-hand side, I'm going to angle it to the left vanishing point. And this right line, I'm going to angle, or this left line, I'm going to angle to the right vanishing point. Okay. And then look what I got. I have the top of the box. And then I have the sides of the box. Okay. So if you want to make any type of a three-dimensional object looking like this that has sides and tops and bottoms or whatever, you really need to make these vanishing points so that your angles are accurate. Okay. So in some of our art, a lot of our art that we do, there really aren't any kind of rules on how you do some certain things. But when you're doing these perspective lines, there are definite rules to make things look accurate. So let's do the top box. Same thing. We're going to make each line on this side go to the vanishing point. Like here. We're going to make the other side go to the vanishing point. We're going to decide how big of a box we want. I'm just going to line this up so it's nice and vertical. I'm going to make the line on the other side so it's the same distance apart. Okay, so now I have the side of my box. Now, like I said, because we are looking up at this box, we're going to see the bottom of it. So from the right-hand line here, I'm going to go to the left vanishing point. From the left line, I'm going to go to this right vanishing point. And there we go. Now we have the bottom of the box. If it was like floating up in the sky there, we could see the bottom of it. And there's our sides. Now, when we are drawing this for real, you're going to be doing this in pencil first, and then all of these guidelines would just be erased when we're done. I'm doing it with marker so that you guys can see it all, but you'll just be drawing them very lightly. I'm going to color that in a little more solid, and erasing them. So keep that in mind when you start to work on your final drawing, that you need to make those lines lightly so that they can be erased. Okay. So if you want to practice drawing more boxes, you can put a box, you could put a box anywhere that you want. You could put a box over here, just draw a line. Where do you want it to be? Try to draw the sides of it. I'm not going to, sometimes when your ruler's lined up, you don't have to draw the whole line if you don't want to, if you know it's going into the right angle. So I'm going to draw, part of the line here. This one is really close over here, so it's going to be at a very different angle. I'm going to draw the top of my line here. Okay. I'm going to draw a nice vertical line here. I'll make a nice vertical line here. And then from the top of that line, I will go over here for the top of my box. And then I already have this angle. It's already going back for that line. So here, I just drew a box over here. Okay, so yeah, you could put boxes all over this paper to see the different angles that they have. So for example, if I wanted one flying up a little bit higher up in the air, I could start with the line just like I did over there. I could make my lines for that side. I could make my lines for that side. Okay. I could make the side of my box. How wide do I want it? And then make the bottom of my box. I don't need to go all the way through. I can know that it's just going to stop there. And then it's going to go there because that would eventually go there. So here's a box over here. So like I say, yeah, you could fill this page with boxes and practice all the different and the correct angles that they need to be on this paper. Okay, so that's the first thing I want you to do. Just kind of practice understanding the angles, the sides of these boxes and how you draw them in the correct perspective. So after you practice a few different drawings or boxes like this, I did put on Google Classroom the official directions on how to draw. I'm going to put it under here. The 2-point perspective gingerbread house. So it's going to take you step by step, and I'm going to start this with you, and then you can look at these directions, print them out if you want. So it kind of takes you step by step on how to draw the house, and then start adding some different things to your picture. It's going to give you some ideas for doors and decorations in your picture. You don't have to use these. These are just some ideas if you want. Because like I said, if you don't want to make a gingerbread house, you don't have to. But as long as you have some type of a building house that's in the correct perspective, but what I'm going to be asking you to draw also are some things in the foreground, the front of the picture, the middle ground, and the background too. When things are in the foreground, they're much bigger and more detailed. And when they're in the background, they're much smaller, not much detail. Okay. So we're going to work on something like this. If you want to do a little Christmassy gingerbread scene, you can, or it can be any type of a house scene. Okay. So I'm just going to start. I'm not going to do the whole thing, but I'm just going to kind of start you with these basic directions on a house, because now instead of we're going to start with like a basic box, but then we're going to add a roof to it. And there are some things you need to be aware of. And then I'm just going to show you on a couple of the next steps of adding like doors and windows. And I just want to point out some of the things that people end up kind of messing up on, and then that I don't want you to do. So some little helpful hints. Okay. So we're going to start with the basic house, and we're going to start the same way that we did with the box. We're going to start with a horizon line where the sky and the ground meet. You're going to put a couple dots on each corner for our perspective lines. Where those are called vanishing points. It's where the lines kind of vanish to. You can decide where you're going to want the house, but this is, like I say, the first line you draw is basically the corner of the house. And you can decide where you want to put that. I'm going to start kind of right there. And once again, I'm doing this with a marker so you can see. You're going to do it with a pencil so you can erase these guidelines when you're done. Just like with the box, we're going to make a line to this vanishing point, and on this to this vanishing point. Okay, so this is the corner of the house. And now we're going to have one side, a left side and a right side of the house. We need to do that to the top of the line also, to that vanishing point and that vanishing point. Okay. At this point, if I was drawing this, I'm going to draw the side of my house, the sides, but then I would erase the horizon line that you can't see, but so you don't see through it. But right now, I'm going to decide that I want my house to be about this wide. Notice how straight and vertical my ruler is. It is not on an angle in any way. That's, like I say, it's one of the things people mess up on a lot. It doesn't look right when that line isn't straight and vertical. You can decide how wide you want this to be. Okay. So now I have this side of the house, the right side of the house, and the left side of the house, because I'm kind of standing here in the corner of it. Now, I do want you to have a peaked roof somewhere on one of your houses, whatever kind of building you're having. In order to make a peaked roof, we need to do this. You need to find the center of this side, because the corner peak, or the middle of the peak, is going to go, usually if you're at a peak, the top middle part of the peak should be centered. And if you put an X in a box like this, you will find the center of the box or the side. So I'm going to put a straight, nice vertical line now through the center of that X. And if I put it up nice and tall like that, that's going to be the middle part of my peaked roof. Okay, so I'm going to the top of that peak from this corner, I need the roof line. It's going to go. Okay, so that's kind of like the centered peak roof. I would erase all of this when I'm done. Okay, I don't need that. But then what you're going to be able to do now is draw the angle of the roof, the top, from the top of that peak to that vanishing point. Okay. Now what's really important too is once you made this angle right here, that same angle has to be the same angle for the back of the roof line too. This doesn't go into any vanishing point. But once you've determined this angle, see how these are these are parallel lines now? You wouldn't want to make this like straight up. Sometimes people make this line go up or it's on some weird angle. But this angle and this angle should be parallel lines. A lot of times what I do is I'll put my pencil right there and I'll just kind of like, oh, okay, it has to be like that. Kind of just move it so it's the same. Okay, so here, now we have a house. We have right side of the house, the left side of the house, we have a peaked roof. Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate how to do a door and a window. Now you can put numerous doors and windows in. You can design your house any way you want, but there's a couple things that we need to do accurately. Okay, so let's say I want one big window on this side of the house, one big picture window. Now you have to draw the sides of the window. You have to decide where you want it to be. I'm going to just put it, we got to have a nice vertical line here. I'm just going to that's going to be the one edge of the window. I'm going to angle from the bottom of the window to the vanishing point. I'm going to angle from the top of the window to the vanishing point. I'm going to then decide how wide I want my window to be. I'm going to end it right here and then right there. This would be erased. This is one big window on that side of the house in the correct angle. Okay. Now I could make a couple small windows here, but I would do it the same way. I would angle the top of each window and the bottom of each window to the, if I'm on the right side of the house, I'm going to angle to the right vanishing point. If I wanted to put like panes, window panes in here, I would kind of maybe decide where the middle is here, and I would make a nice straight vertical line. And then maybe I'm gonna, cut this in half and have like my window panes in there, and that middle line would be at an angle too. That line is going to the vanishing point, so I could thicken it up if I wanted to, but it's going to be at that correct angle. Okay. Let's say I wanted a door over here on this side of the house. All lines that are vertical need to stay vertical. Don't angle them in any way. So I'm going to put the one edge of the door right here. I'm going to decide how tall I want my door to be. From that line, I can angle it to the vanishing point. And then I can make the other side of the door nice and straight line here. Put a little doorknob in there, however I want. But like I said, all those guidelines will eventually be erased. But what's important is the top is angled to the vanishing point. If I'm on the left side of the building, these lines are going to angle to the left vanishing point. You can see on the right side of the building, the top and bottom of my window lines are angling to the vanishing point. So then you have doors and windows and stuff are all in the correct perspective. All right. I'm just going to give you some kind of little tidbit hints. There is the sheet online that kind of gives you some other ideas, maybe how to draw a fence or a sign or some different things that you can put in your picture. You don't have to. But so, for example, if I wanted some kind of a fence, no, actually, I'll do the sign. Let's say you want a sign that says, welcome to Gingerbread Land, or welcome to the North Pole if we're up in if you're drawing like a Christmas scene. So for example, if I wanted to do a sign, I could just start with a line. I could decide, which side I want it angling towards. If I want it angling on this angle, I will go to the right vanishing point. It's the top of my sign and the bottom of my sign. And then if I want the other side of my sign, the other pole to be here, I'd make this nice and straight vertical line. If I wanted a little thicker poles here, I could thicken these up. That's not a problem. But then the bottom of my poles would angle to the vanishing point. Okay, that's where I would cut them off. So let's say this is a one pole and this is a pole. I would erase all that because it's not accurate. And then if I wanted to make little guidelines for like words, so because they would angle back too, I'm going to make a guideline here. I'm going to make a guideline here. And then maybe I'm going to make a little arrow. I'm going to make a little arrow there. But notice how the arrow angle is, the angle is going to the vanishing point. So it's accurate. I'm not just drawing it any which way. And then I made those guidelines so I can see that I can put the words that I want. They're going to angle back a little bit. So let's say this is the North Pole. It's going to be that way. And seeing all these guidelines, I would erase that. I would erase all these. All those lines are eventually going to be erased. We just put them in there in the beginning to help us draw correctly, but then we erase them. Okay. So you can see even signs are at an angle. If I wanted I had said earlier, maybe a fence. I could continue the same line if I wanted a fence. Let's say that's going to the vanishing point. Let's say I wanted to kind of continue that line here. And then maybe I'm going to put another line. Oops. I'm going to put it right. I don't need to go over the house. I can see that I'm just going to have a fence on this, on this side of the house. Okay. All right. So I can see that there is, and I'm going to line this up with a ruler so it's a nice vertical. I'm going to measure with the ruler like this so every line is nice and vertical. And I'm going to go between those two guidelines and I'm going to make a fence. Now if I wanted to make this more into a picket fence, I could add a second line, I could add, maybe I'm going to make those into little candy canes, I don't know. But I could then kind of make the top of maybe the pickets as I go through. But notice how the fence is going back to the guidelines, to the vanishing point, so that it is accurate. If I wanted to make more rungs, I'm going to put my ruler at the vanishing point, and I'm going to draw more rungs in my fence. I'm going to line that up to the vanishing point and then continue to draw my line. So if every line that is on an angle is going back to either that vanishing point or that vanishing point. So same thing here. If I'm going to make some bottom rungs, I'm going to kind of do this. So the cool thing about drawing using vanishing points like this, you never have to kind of guess anymore what the correct angle of your line should be. Once you understand the rules, it's really easy. Okay. So then, for example, this is like my little fence right here. I'm just kind of darkening in the lines that I want to show so you can kind of see. You guys are eventually, once you have this all sketched in pencil, I will want you to kind of outline all the lines you like or that you're keeping in marker. And then you can kind of color it in with colored pencil, crayons, whatever you need. See, I would erase this top line. And I'm just going to keep these two kind of lined here for the fence. All right. One other thing I want to point out, because like I say, you're going to be able to add whatever you want to your picture. The requirement is you got to have at least a house or a building with a roof, doors and windows. Okay, you got to have that somewhere. All right. Then if you want to put signs or fences or whatever, you can. But you have to have something in the foreground, middle ground, and background. Okay, so the horizon line shows where the sky and ground meet. It doesn't, you don't eventually, you can make that curvier or whatever, it doesn't matter. But maybe you want to put some, hills in the background, maybe with some snow-capped mountains on them or whatever. It's up to you. So I just put some things behind the house, and that's in the background. But another thing that I really want to see in your picture is to show, because this is the element of space we are working on, showing things in the foreground, middle ground, and background. So for example, if things are super, super far away, I'm going to draw like a little pine tree back here. They're going to be super, super tiny. Okay, so I'm just drawing like a basic little image of some trees way back here on the hills. All right. As they get closer to you, they're going to be a little bit bigger. So if I wanted a tree more in the middle ground, I'm going to start making that a little bit bigger. Okay. Like that. So background are very tiny. Middle ground, they're getting a little bit bigger. Now, if I wanted a tree here in the foreground, I'm going to overlap it and put it in front of everything. That tree is going to be very, very big. Okay, so I'm just going to scribble here for a minute and trying to draw my tree back and forth here. Like I say, obviously I would do this in pencil, and maybe I'm going to have the tree trunk here. Okay, but maybe this is a tree that you'll outline and then decorate, for Christmas. Got a little star on top, so overlapping there. Okay. So my point is, that notice the three trees. Foreground, closer to the bottom of the paper, big. Middle ground, middle of the paper, medium size. Background, super tiny. Okay, higher up on the paper. So your drawing, not only does it need to have a building with a roof, peaked roof, doors and windows, you need other things in your picture to show foreground, middle ground, background. Things in the front, larger, things in the back, smaller. Maybe it could be, little, maybe you're going to have, little snowman here welcoming you to this little place here. Okay. He's saying hello and hanging onto the sign or whatever he's going to do here. Okay. There's his little buttons. Okay. So if you had a snowman in the front of your picture in the foreground and you wanted another one back here, obviously he's going to be much smaller. Okay. Not as much detail on this one because he's getting farther away. The things in the front are going to be much more detailed. Okay, so you're going to continue to add details to your picture. If you want to make this a gingerbread house, I have some ideas here. Maybe this is snow is going to be kind of curving down on here. So it's not a straight roof, for example. But if you want, designs on the roof, let's say you wanted to make some candy on this roof. I would, if I were you, make some guidelines. I'm not going to go all the way through, but I'm going to line up my ruler. I would maybe make some guidelines to the correct angles first on my roof. Okay. And then I would know that even if I was going to do like a scalloped roof like that, the scallops are actually going to get smaller and smaller, and the angle, and that correct angle as the roof line. So I used this as a guideline. Okay, and then maybe I'll overlap in between. But if I didn't have those guidelines, if I hadn't drawn those, I wouldn't know that I have to kind of get a little bit smaller, and I have to angle in the correct direction. So it's really important to put some guidelines so you know. Even if you're going to put like candy there, they would kind of get a little bit more narrower as they go that way. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, this is just for the very first day, is simply, number one, practice your boxes, different angles and stuff. And then practice, look at the guidelines that I've posted on your Gingerbread House, how to get started. You'll use these as guidelines. You can use this thing as different ideas of what you could put in your or on your gingerbread house. But like I said, you don't have to do a gingerbread house, but you have to do some type of a house or building with a roof, with the doors, with windows, and things in the foreground, middle ground, background. Okay? And that show the correct perspective. But first class, it's a day of sketching and practicing. And then second class, you'll start your final sketch in pencil. And then you'll show it to me before you kind of outline it in dark and black and color it in. Okay? So I'll be here if you have any questions. Thank you very much.